We built a strong economy, exposed Armenia internationally as an occupying state. Many leading international organizations had to accept our position as a result of our efforts. We created a strong army, purchased the most advanced weapons, and educated our young generation. That young generation gave their all in the patriotic war and liberated our lands from the enemy. May Allah rest the souls of all our martyrs in peace. We owe this victory to them, to the tens of thousands of Azerbaijani soldiers and officers like them. The Azerbaijani state and the Azerbaijani people united like a fist, and we forced Armenia to sign the act of capitulation in a matter of 44 days. The 44-day patriotic war is our glorious history. We were moving forward every day. Not a single person abandoned the battlefield. There was not a single deserter. In other words, this shows the high qualities of our people. This demonstrates that all our people and the armed forces were prepared to die for the motherland. According to their own assessment, there were 12,000 deserters in the Armenian army. When the patriotic war ended, most of Kalbajar, Lachin, and Agdam were still under occupation. However, as a result of the act of capitulation, we forced Armenia to return these districts to us, and it had to do so. In other words, Kalbajar was liberated without a single shot being fired. You, the people of Kalbajar, know the terrain and climate of this region perfectly well. I also know that well, because I have been here many times. In previous periods too, I had passed through the Murov Pass, the Omar Pass. A military way of liberation of Kalbajar at the end of 2020 winter had already begun, would have resulted in huge losses. Of course, we would have liberated it because we had almost crushed the Armenian army by that time, but they had strong defensive fortifications. At that time, Agdara district was not under our control. The only way was from the Murov direction, and I repeat, we could have suffered huge losses. Therefore, history showed again that the cessation of the war on November 10, 2020 was the most correct step. However, at that time, part of our lands were still not under our control. From that time until September 19, 2023, our main goal was to fully restore the sovereignty of our country. You remember that history perfectly well, both the elimination of the so-called Lachin corridor and the transformation of it into the Lachin-Konkendi road, the establishment of a checkpoint in the Lachin direction on the Armenian-Azerbaijani border, and, at the same time, the capture of important strategic heights from November 2020 to September 2023, the Faruk, Kirkiz, and Sarababa operations. All this was our glorious history and part of our consistent policy. Of course, we could not say a lot at the time. There was no need for this. However, we were moving towards the goal of leaving not a single separatist on our lands. Separatism must be nipped in the bud and uprooted, and we did exactly that. As a result of the anti-terrorist operation that lasted only a few hours, the separatist junta signed an act of capitulation. It signed a document reflecting the alleged collapse of the fake republic.